Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Sydney from PhoneDoc.com, here with a full review of the LG Enlighten from Verizon Wireless. Now, the Enlighten is not going to turn a lot of heads in terms of the spec sheet, but it does have a couple of things that are still selling points. One of them is the fact that it ships with the latest version of Android. It's Android 2.3 Gingerbread. That's something that a lot of phones don't ship with even today, and especially mid-range phones like the Enlighten. So that's unique to this device. Also, it has a physical keyboard. Not a lot of Android devices out there with a physical keyboard. So I've been testing it out. I'm going to do a full review for you guys, tell you what I think of it, how it performs as a phone. I'll also go into the keyboard and tell you what I think of the keyboard. Before we get on to the review, I have to say, especially to our friends at Best Buy Mobile, we thank them all the time because they send us free phones so we can add to our One Paw Bandit game, which is a game where you guys can win free phones. One of the great things about Best Buy Mobile is that when you buy a phone from them, you don't have to worry about rebates. You don't have to worry about remembering to send it in, waiting to get the card or to get the rebate money. You don't have to worry about any of that. At Best Buy Mobile, the price on the tag is the price you pay. So thank you, Best Buy Mobile, for being so awesome. Thank you guys for watching this video. It's a review of the LG Enlighten from Verizon Wireless. I'm Sydney from PhoneDoc.com. Let's go check it out. Okay, so let's get started with the LG Enlighten from Verizon Wireless, one of their new budget Android devices. One of the nice things about this device, as I mentioned in the intro, is that it ships with Android 2.3, which you don't get on a lot of, well, not on every Android device that ships, especially a phone of this caliber. You know, most mid-range Android devices, they ship with the previous version of Android, which is version 2.2. So to have a device that's a mid-range device, budget-friendly, and yet still has the most recent version of Android, that's definitely a plus. So it ships with Android 2.3, also known as Gingerbread. But as you can see, LG has made some customizations and made a couple of changes to Android just to make it a little more visually appealing. So we'll go over a couple of those changes. First of all, on the bottom of the screen here, you can see they've added this dock to different shortcuts. Now you can customize these shortcuts, so out of the box, this Maps shortcut, that was different, but I customized it to go to Maps. And then you can also have a phone, messaging, and then the app drawer. These are what did come by default out of the box. So that's nice, you know, to have a dock there. Then if we go to the app drawer, you'll see this is a little different too because your apps are divided into categories: communication, news and search, media, tools, applications, and downloads. Now if you want to bring this all together and kind of close all of these categories, you just pinch in and then you can just see a list of the categories, the number of items, or you can pinch out and it'll expand all of the categories. So, you know, just a nice little additional feature there. I personally don't like having categories in the app drawer. To me, it's, you know, it kind of hinders me more than it actually helps me, but everyone's different. You can also view your apps in list mode, and then the categories are just the letter of the alphabet since it's in alphabetical order. Most people would probably choose to have it in grid form. So that's another change that LG has made. Again, if we go to the notification bar here, we also have some toggle widgets. That they're toggle buttons. That's not something that you get with every Android device. These are very useful, you know, for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, turn those features on or off, and you can change the profile for the ringer to have it on silent or on vibrate. So another additional feature. Along with that, LG has included a messaging widget so you can see your messages. And then if we go to add a widget, first of all, you'll see that this interface is different. On most Android devices, you do a long press and this window pops up, but this is very different. Again, part of LG's customization. So when this pops up, you have options for widgets, shortcuts, folders, or if you want to change the wallpaper. But let's go back over to widgets and we'll see what else LG has included. We have a favorite contacts widget, the digital clock. That's what you saw, what's on the home screen right now. There's a data usage widget, that'll be helpful. Messaging, that's the widget that we already saw. Then a couple of these widgets are ones that I've installed: Seasmix, Slacker Radio, Viz Battery. That's the battery widget I have. So not a whole lot of additional widgets, but just enough to make it a little more visually appealing. And then you can download whatever you want to download, whatever widgets you want to download from the Android market. Now let's take a quick hardware tour of the phone. On the front here we have a 3.2-inch display, just a standard resolution display, 320 by 480 pixels. And you know, it's clear enough, it's bright enough, but it's not going to blow you away. I mean, text is pixelated, graphics are a little rough, a little grainy, but it's still, you know, for a mid-range device, it's about what you would expect. Now, 3.2 inches may seem a little small for some. I think the biggest advantage to this phone is that you have a physical keyboard. So usually 3.2 inches, when you're trying to type on that small keyboard, it can kind of be a little bit too small, a little bit too cramped. But because you have a physical keyboard, it's not quite so bad. So again, it may be, you know, small depending on, you know, how large your hands are, but it helps to have the physical keyboard so you're not, you know, your thumbs aren't crammed onto the display. While we have the keyboard slid out, we'll take a look at it. And you know, there's not a lot of Android devices with physical keyboards, so you always look at them. You know, you want it to be a good keyboard. I've tested this one out, and you know, I have a couple of gripes about it. Mostly, right off the bat, having a space bar in between in a row of letters, that can be kind of frustrating. It's nice that you have the dedicated number row, but because you have a dedicated number row, that means that there's no extra row for the space bar, so it's now in a row of letters. Personally, you know, I don't use numbers very much, so I don't really think most people would need a dedicated number row. I would rather have a dedicated space bar row. Now, if this is your personal device, it's something that you could get used to. It does mean that, you know, certain keys are kind of pushed a little farther to the right than what we're used to. And you just have to get, you know, basically relearn how to type on a keyboard. But it is something that you can get used to. But again, like I said, it's frustrating, it's uncomfortable, and it is going to take time to get used to it. You know, if you have another option, if you're looking at another phone, I would definitely consider something else, you know, simply because just that I think is a design flaw. Another design flaw is, again, going back to the space bar. As you can see, it's a triple wide space bar, which is nice. You know, it's nice to have a long space bar key, but the problem is that the pressure point is, there's only a single pressure point in the middle. So if you're typing and you press it on this end or on this end, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to press the space. You have to push it right in the middle, which to me kind of defeats the purpose of having this wider space bar key, because you know, you essentially just only have the space of about one key to press it. So, you know, when you're typing, you have to be pretty precise with the key, with the space bar. You know, when I'm just typing fast, I don't pay attention to it, but you know, now I do have to pay attention to it, so it kind of slows me down. Again, just one of those minor frustrations and a design flaw. I don't understand why LG did that. It would have been so much better and so much easier to have, you know, 2 pressure points on each side. So again, you know, that's another thing. You can decide if you think that'll bother you or not. Other than that, the keyboard is fine. The keys are pretty flat. See if I can get it at an angle. So you can see they're pretty flat, but they do have this angle on each side, depending on which side of the keyboard it's on. They're plastic keys, but there's just enough grip to them to where the traction is nice. You know, I don't like the keyboards where they're so plasticky that they're just slippery. It's hard to type when my fingers are, you know, sliding all over the keyboard. But this one has nice grip, nice traction. The action on the keys is nice. Pretty easy to type on, but again, it just goes back to that space bar in the row of letters. That can be frustrating, and then, you know, slowing down and having to be precise with pushing the space bar right in the middle. That can be frustrating. In terms of a virtual keyboard, you do have a virtual keyboard, you know, if you want to use it. It only ships with the Android keyboard. This is the new updated keyboard that Google has designed, so again, that's another perk of having the latest version of Android, is that this is the newest keyboard, as opposed to previous versions of Android. They have an older keyboard. This is the only keyboard that you get out of the box, but you can download other virtual keyboards if you want to, but I'm assuming that you're going to be using the physical keyboard for the most part. So more on hardware. Under the display here, we have the 4 Android keys for menu, home, back, and search. These are actual physical keys. As you can see, they're not capacitive touch or touch sensitive keys. These buttons are also on the keyboard. You can see here, back, menu, and search. Also on the keyboard, you have a dedicated key to put the phone on vibrate, which is kind of interesting. Seems like an odd placement for a key like that, but you do still have it. And then moving on to the right side, you have a dedicated camera shutter key, which is nice for the camera. I always like having that. It just makes it so much easier and so much quicker to access the camera. On top is a 3.5mm headphone jack, along with the screen lock button, which is also the power button for turning on and off the device. Volume rocker keys on the left, along with the micro USB port. This is what you'll use to plug in the charging cable, or you can use that cable to transfer data from your phone to, like say, your computer. The phone is pretty thick, but that's just because it has a physical keyboard, so it's not too big of a deal. 0.58 inches thick, so it's a little bit thinner than the Droid. If you've seen that, it's a little bit thinner than that, just slightly though. Really, by averages, it's about the same size. And then, kind of short because it has that 3.2-inch display. Keep in mind that I have small hands, so every phone looks ginormous while I'm holding it. So if you think, wow, that thing looks huge, it's not really. It's just because I have small hands.